The first gunshot rang out at exactly 5:47 a.m., slicing through the freezing air of the Colorado mountains. It wasn't a hunting shot. It wasn't target practice. It was a warning, sharp, deliberate. One round fired into the sky. The second shattered the front tire of a black SUV with no plates, creeping slowly down the dirt road. 3 men scrambled out. One tripped. Another pulled out his phone. 10 minutes later, the sky thundered with the roar of helicopters. At the edge of an old, forgotten mine stood an old man, still as stone. Silver hair. A worn flannel shirt. An M1 Garand rifle cradled in his arms, steady, unwavering. His name was Jack Morgan. 68 years old. A retired Marine who survived 3 deployments in Fallujah. In his shirt pocket was a faded photo of his late wife, the woman who once swore this land would never be taken, not by thieves, not by the government. And now he was keeping that promise, with everything he had left. No one expected what happened next. Within 30 minutes, a fully armed military unit had surrounded the abandoned mine. Why did a retired veteran open fire? Who called in the army? And was this just the desperate act of a broken man, or the first spark of a truth buried too long? Jack Morgan was not a man easily shaken. He was a Marine veteran, 3 tours in the Middle East, 2 shrapnel wounds, and a Medal of Honor tucked away in an old oak drawer. For Jack, glory was never the goal. Fighting was a duty, something a man did when everything else had fallen apart. After leaving the service, he returned to Colorado, the place where his father once worked as a miner before dying from black lung disease. Jack bought a small plot of land right next to an abandoned mine that had been shut down since 1974. He built a simple wooden cabin and lived there with his wife Helen for nearly 20 peaceful years. After she passed away from cancer, he lived alone. The old kitchen still held 2 coffee mugs every morning. One was used, the other untouched, as if waiting for someone who would never come back. Then one day, while clearing the area behind the mine, he discovered a hidden tunnel. Not marked on any map. Inside were mining machines still intact, faded technical blueprints, and dark blue metal crates sealed with government locks. No labels. No instructions. Only a warning symbol, government exclusive. At that moment, Jack knew this land was far more than abandoned dirt and rocks. And he also knew, whatever was buried beneath was a secret never meant to see the light of day. Weeks later, unmarked SUVs began to appear. At first 1, then 2, then 3. They moved like ghosts, pulling up briefly at the gate, then vanishing like mist. Jack called the authorities. No response. He sent letters. No reply. Then a man in a black suit approached him outside the post office. No name. No smile. Just one sentence. Leave now, before it's too late. That night, Jack cleaned his old M1 Garand rifle, the bullet still in the chamber. At dawn, when the 3rd SUV rolled up, he didn't shoot to warn anymore. He aimed straight at the tire. And this time, he wasn't waiting for anyone else to solve it. Jack stood motionless in the thick darkness of the pine forest, his breathing steady but his heart pounding like a drum signaling the start of a battle. The faint beams from a passing SUV's headlights flickered over the rocky ground and dry branches. The engine's roar mingled with the whistle of the wind through the leaves, composing a cold, deadly symphony. He gripped his old M1 Garand tightly, the rifle that had once sown terror among enemies, now as cold and unforgiving as ever. There was no time to hesitate. The people in that vehicle weren't here to negotiate or warn. They had come to seize the secret he had uncovered and silence anyone who got in their way. The SUV halted before the mine's gate, tires crushing gravel with a grinding sound that echoed like a scream in the still night. 2 men stepped out, their footsteps heavy and decisive, their eyes cold as ice, showing no emotion. They didn't speak, just moved toward the rusty gate as if following a long-planned mission. Jack took a step back, eyes fixed through his rifle's scope. His heart seemed to stop as the footsteps grew closer, each step a summons to the grave. Then suddenly he squeezed the trigger. The bang shattered the quiet, tearing through the darkness. A bullet shot like lightning, shredding the right front tire of the SUV. The vehicle screeched to a halt, emitting a pitiful screech as it tried to move before stopping completely. Immediately, the second man pulled his gun and fired back, bullets cracking rapidly through the air. Jack ducked instinctively, his body swift as a shadow, each shot whizzing past close by. He reloaded quickly, refusing to make even a single mistake. Gunfire mixed with the snapping of branches and rustling leaves as figures emerged from a second SUV, infrared lights sweeping the area, illuminating every rock and tree root, leaving Jack nowhere to hide. The cold beams felt suffocating, squeezing him into the shadows. Jack shouted, his voice rough with defiance, "Get out of here! This land is mine!" No one answered. They advanced, guns trained on him, but he stood his ground. He fired again, each bullet the voice of conscience that could not be silenced. Suddenly, sirens wailed in the distance, signaling the army's approach. Time was running out. Jack turned and ran toward a secret tunnel where he had found carefully sealed metal barrels. That was the key to everything. It had to be protected at all costs. A sudden volley of bullets screamed through the air, one piercing his calf, sending a burning pain that nearly knocked him down. But Jack resisted, the pain simmering like fire, yet his will never faltered. He crawled into the dark tunnel, grabbing a backpack filled with precious documents and maps. Outside, Special Forces commands echoed through the night. "Drop your weapons. Surrender immediately." But Jack knew, if he surrendered, everything would fall silent forever. The truth would be buried with him, and the sacrifices made for justice forgotten. He stood, leaning against the cold stone wall, sweat beading on his forehead, his heart still beating fiercely. Gunfire continued outside, the army's footsteps closing in. But Jack Morgan was ready for the final fight. A battle not just for survival but for truth, conscience, and the legacy of those who came before. Jack didn't have time to rest or tend to his wounds. The military sirens blared incessantly, echoing like a death knell in the dark night. Each wail wasn't just a sound, it was a pounding heartbeat of tension driving him to act faster. Outside the tunnel, dozens of shadowy figures moved swiftly, their weapons gleaming coldly under the flashlight beams. Their footsteps thudded rhythmically on the cold, rocky ground, making the air thick with suffocating pressure. The flashlights from the Special Forces swept continuously, illuminating every nook and cranny of the tunnel. Jack knew like the back of his hand. He understood they weren't just after capturing him, they wanted to seize the valuable secrets he had guarded for years. If those fell into their hands, all his efforts and sacrifices would be meaningless. A chilling sensation crept into his mind, but he forced himself to stay calm, holding his breath and listening to every step and heavy breath of his opponents. Suddenly, a group of Special Forces soldiers entered the tunnel, guns aimed straight at Jack. Their voices were cold and resolute. "Jack Morgan, surrender immediately. The military has surrounded the entire area. There is no way out." But Jack only stared at them with steely eyes, without uttering a word. He knew words were weakness now. Only action could protect the truth and his life. Jack gripped his gun tightly, his fingers numb and cold, ready for the final fight. Gunfire erupted instantly, tearing through the thick air inside the tunnel. Bullets cut through the dense atmosphere, striking the rocky walls with echoes like thunder rolling underground. Jack dodged swiftly, sliding across rocky ledges. Each shot fired was cold and precise, hitting those who dared come close. The firefight intensified like never before. Bullets flew in all directions, light flashing with every trigger pull. Shouts and grenade explosions reverberated inside the tunnel, shaking the ground violently. Jack felt each bullet graze his skin, burning pain, but he refused to stop. A grenade suddenly exploded nearby, sending dust and debris flying, blurring his vision. Yet Jack remained calm, taking a deep breath, controlling his breath, not letting panic take over. His iron will kept him standing amid the storm of bullets. The military pressed forward relentlessly, every step a declaration of war. They used flashlights and infrared devices to scan every corner, leaving Jack no place to hide. Commands shouted continuously, coordinating precise, systematic attacks. Jack knew he couldn't hold out forever in the tunnel. He needed to escape or create enough pressure to force the military to halt. He retreated, heading toward a small side door he had discovered earlier, a hidden exit leading into the dense forest outside. The pain from his leg wound worsened, blood soaking his clothes and the cold ground. But Jack wouldn't allow himself to falter. He pulled a small knife from his backpack, quickly cutting the bandage wrapped around his leg, every movement burning like fire. Yet his unyielding will helped him push through the agony. Gunfire echoed endlessly outside, almost engulfing the entire tunnel. A group of soldiers spotted the side door and rushed toward it. With no other choice, Jack dashed out of his hiding spot, his eyes full of determination and recklessness. The direct confrontation happened in an instant. Jack used his combat skills honed over years, precise punches, agile, swift movements. But the enemy outnumbered him, the pressure mounting. A bullet struck his shoulder, pain radiating through his body. Jack fell to the ground but refused to surrender. Using his remaining strength, he dragged himself toward the side door and plunged into the darkness of the forest. The military pursued closely, not giving him a moment's respite. Jack employed all his survival skills to evade, slipping through trees, avoiding flashlight beams and gunfire. Finally, when he was far enough from the tunnel, Jack stopped, gasping for breath. Blood still trickled from his wound, but a flicker of hope ignited within him. The military hadn't fully sealed the area, and he still had a chance to protect the truth. Jack stood up, summoning every ounce of remaining strength, and ventured deeper into the forest. The battle was not over, it was only just beginning. Jack's battle was not merely a confrontation between one man and a powerful military force, it was a vivid symbol of resilience and unyielding will. In that razor's edge moment, when the truth stood on the brink of being buried, Jack chose to stand firm, refusing to yield despite the harsh dangers and relentless trials ahead. His story serves as a powerful reminder that in life, there are sacred values that cannot be traded for safety or convenience. We live in a world where truth is often shrouded in darkness, and justice is not always protected. Yet, it is people like Jack, with courage and perseverance, who kindle the flame of hope, illuminating the path toward what is right. Each of us can learn from this spirit, to never give up when faced with adversity, to steadfastly defend what we believe in, and to dare to stand alone amid the storm. This story is also a wake-up call about personal responsibility and vigilance in today's society. Silence or turning a blind eye can become complicity with injustice, and we must realize that every voice raised for truth holds the power to bring change. Jack was not just protecting an abandoned mine, he was safeguarding principles and moral values that seem all too often forgotten in modern life. Finally, the message to you is this. No matter how great the challenge, hold fast to your faith and courage. Stand up and defend what you believe is right, because it is those actions that create change, transforming your life and the world around you. Jack fought not only for himself but for a higher ideal. And you, will you choose to stand or to surrender before the challenge? If Jack's story touched your heart, don't just listen, share it with your friends and loved ones to spread the spirit of courage and resilience. Subscribe to our channel so you won't miss more real, inspiring stories like this every week. And most importantly, remember, each of us has the power to change the world, starting by standing up for what we believe in. Are you ready? Take action today.